Hello, and welcome to Spokane County Spotlight. I'm Commissioner Josh Kerns, and my guest today is David Condon, Mayor of the City of Spokane. David, welcome to the program today.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Before we get started, I'm sure most of our audience today is familiar with you, having been Mayor of Spokane for 8 years. But if there are any new viewers or folks that are new to Spokane, could you give them a little bit of background about yourself?
Certainly. I was born and raised here in Spokane, left to go to college, and then served in the United States Army for 8 years. That took me to Texas and to Hawaii and south of Tacoma at Fort Lewis. Returned to Spokane, owned and operated a couple small companies, and then worked as a senior staffer in the congressional office here in Spokane. And then ultimately decided at 37 and with 2 kids to start knocking on some doors and running for mayor. So that was now 8 years ago.
All right. Well, so if we go back in time a little 8 years ago, what was it that led you to decide that you're going to take that leap and run for mayor of the second largest city in Washington State?
Well, it was, like you said, it was my first elected office. I'd obviously worked in politics for about 7 years at that time, but really it was talking about where my hometown was going. And as we were in the recession and the decisions being made at the local level did not seem to be focused on the top priorities of our citizens. And as one of those citizens, and as someone raising my family here, I thought, you know what, I can either sit on the sidelines or get involved. And so that's what we decided, that either we get involved or we need to quit talking about it. And so, and we really focused on public safety, we focused on job creation, and we focused on really reining in the growth of government, especially at the time. And people, I remember 2011, we were well into the recession, and really government had not reacted at the local level to take that into consideration, and in my opinion, was not looking out for the taxpayer.
Okay. When you look back at so following that first election, you had your first 4 years in office. What would you say is the biggest achievement during that first 4-year term as mayor?
It was a course correction, right? So we started with a really ambitious 100-day plan that morphed into Vision 2020, focusing on being the safest city of our size. And that's when we really started to implement multiple years of adding to our police department. At the time, about 38 new officers over that first period. We righted the financial ship. We really looked at what positions we needed and eliminated 152 positions, reinvested those dollars in top priorities of our citizens, public safety, job creation. We also, one of the big reasons why I was elected was out of control utility rates. In the city government, we run water, sewer, and also garbage service for our citizens, and they had seen double-digit increases in their utility rates. We committed early on in my first 100 days that we would never increase utility rates over inflation. And that was a policy decision that was made that really has reaped benefits going forward in making sure we keep the cost of living inside the city of Spokane as affordable as possible. And so that really allowed us to make some strategic investments, and a couple of those key strategic investments was looking at our infrastructure differently. And in that first term, we put about $880 million into infrastructure. And of course, that has continued. But we were able to do that while still keeping utility rates and not increasing taxes to do that.
Wow. Okay. And if I remember correctly, your re-election was I guess a pretty safe margin to re-election. So when you focus on your current term that's coming to an end, what were some of those biggest achievements in the second 4 years?
Well, as we pivoted into the second term, that Vision 2020 morphed into a joint strategic plan with our city council. Of course, in the city of Spokane, we have both a strong mayor and a city council, and we came together and developed the One Spokane strategic plan, focusing in 4 key areas. I'll start first with innovative infrastructure. And so we started the program in the first term, and that was our Cleaner River Faster initiative. People know it also as the combined sewer overflow, something that cities are grappling with around the country. And we lead the country in cleaning up the Spokane River. And so that has come to fruition. We also, on our second major initiative, was enhancing our urban center. We are the city for some million people. People come to the core of the city, whether it be throughout the county or really into northern Idaho, into western Montana, and well into the middle part of the state. And so how can we enhance that? And one of them, and also how do people live in the city? And so the first thing we did is the number one reason why people live in the city or where they live is the school district. And so we really focused on external partnerships. And one of the biggest ones was the partnership with our school district, our parks department, and our libraries, and launched a very popular and voted in $500 million going into lifelong learning. And so we will have all new middle schools. The first time ever we'll have a public library inside a middle school, which is really cool to see the different governments working together. We have much of the property that these middle schools are going to be on was really underutilized city property that unfortunately in many cases was the scourge of their neighborhoods. We weren't maintaining it well. It wasn't really enhancing the neighborhood. And now there will be middle schools literally in these schools, which also will help us reduce the class size in those primary grades. And so that's been phenomenal. The partnerships with the county. I'll tell you, one of the major ones that we've done in the job creation, being the fastest growing job market, in that initiative is our public development authorities. And so now we have 3 robust public development authorities, whether it be the West Plains, the University District, or in Northeast Spokane, all centered around major public investments, billion-dollar investments. The airport, owned by the county and the city, a great generational ownership, but a billion-dollar economic driver, and now the area around there seeing much growth and job creation. The University District and the investment of some $1 billion in higher education, in particularly in the life sciences. And now in Northeast Spokane with the Northeast, or with the North-South Corridor, $1 billion transportation asset. And so that partnership, and just literally weeks ago, finalizing those agreements to where we're really looking at the economic boundaries and the economic drivers between our 2 governments for the betterment of job creation. And so I think as you looked at the second term, you really saw the foundation laid in the first term, but in the second term, really reaching out and how do you build, as we say in the One Spokane plan, that city of choice, that safer, smarter, healthier community, and that's done larger than just city government. It's done with our partners at the county. It's done with our partners in the school district, the partners in the Spokane Transit Authority, and many others. But you need to put those teams together, and it's tough work. You know this, especially on the public development authorities, of getting everybody to come together. And so I hope that continues with the next administration partnering, and I think it will with the county.
Yeah, and I can't agree with you more on the public development authorities. Those are we've already seen the successes with the West Plains and the U District, and I think just with having that partnership now with Northeast and then with the county now becoming a part of the U District, I think we're just going to see more success for our region. I really think that is a vehicle for the future to lead us in to some big wins in the economic development arena.
I think it'll just be a great opportunity, especially as a commissioner, and as you serve on the Northeast, and obviously have a vote or an opinion on the other 2, but definitely in the Northeast, just to get the departments to work together. So as we look at Francis, as we look at Wellesley, as we look at Market, how do those connect? Because in today's mobile economy and mobile workforce, people will be living in Spokane Valley, working in Northeast Spokane. People will be living in Deer Park and working in Northeast Spokane. So we have to make sure those connections happen, and now jointly with the Public Development Authority, make those investments in those spots. And you're correct. We've been seeing these, whether it be out on the West Plains with investments along Highway 2 or the Medical Lake Interchange, and then it makes it really easy, or at least compelling, for the federal government as they look at where they should put their dollars. When they see this collaboration happening, you see that's why the state and the federal government government, whether it be the transload facility, whether it be new interchanges on I-90. That's where these connections start happening. And this is what people expect out of their government. They expect us to look at the different levels, work together. They get frustrated with the bridges to nowhere, and those things happen unless you're working diligently to make those connections.
Okay, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. We heard a lot about the Hacking Washington initiative during your second term. Could you give us a little bit of rundown on that?
Absolutely. Again, part of our strategic plan. We looked like many, businesses do. We said, what's our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And one of the big issues was people didn't know about Spokane. And so we decided to invest dollars in communicating and engaging both our own citizens and knowing what the value proposition is for our community, and then also outside our community. If you're not a growing community, unfortunately, you start to die. And even in the city of Spokane, we saw that the job creation and the median household income was increasing outside the core of the city. And so we put this together. I'll tell you initially, I mean, thinking about it 2.5 years ago, when my team came back to me and they're like, Mayor, it's going to be Hacking Washington. And I thought, what? What's that? And really now life hacks, the word hack, maybe it hasn't made the Webster's dictionary yet, but it will. And that is, how do you hack something? How do you get away with something? How do you have a lifestyle? And so Hacking Washington, many of our friends and family that live on the west side, they love the culture of the Northwest. They love the outdoors of the Northwest. They love the innovation of the Northwest, but unfortunately, along the I-5 corridor, they aren't experiencing it. They just can't. Their quality of life is not there. Job creation is not there. So how do you hack Washington? You choose Spokane. And this is where a median household or median cost of a house is $270,000, not $780,000. Where your average commute is 19 minutes, not well over an hour. Where you can go to your kids' sporting events, where you can enjoy the weekends, and if people haven't seen it, if you go to hackingwashington.org, you'll see some of the videos. And also to our citizens that live here, our parents and our grandparents. The thing I heard all the time is, Mayor, my kids are leaving, or I wish my kids would move back to Spokane. And so it's not just about telling other people to come to Spokane, but to have opportunities. We have 5 amazing universities in the immediate area, and we just saw all over and over again a brain drain. And so we need to create those jobs. And one of our few joint strategic plan initiatives was to be the fastest growing job market in the Intermountain Northwest. So faster than Boise, faster than Reno, faster than Denver. If people are going to be in that Intermountain Northwest, Spokane needs to be on their map. And I'll tell you, it's working. Median household income is up 37% in the last 5 years within the city. First time in history. So we need to create those jobs. This was part of it.
All right. So you hit on a lot of those key things that would appeal to a lot of families that are considering moving here, about the commute times, the recreational opportunities for the families, the housing costs. What are some of those things that when you were out there promoting the city, what did you use to recruit businesses, or what are the major selling points that you used for the city?
I'll start first with focusing on the public development authorities. Over and over again, they'd be like, you guys talk to the county government, or you work with the the other governments, because in today's world, especially if they're going to build a facility, the streamlining the permitting is critical. Having cooperation amongst different jurisdictions is critical. And often, where you'll see some examples, we use some examples in the city, whether it be from the Macy's building, from point of purchase to the point of the first tenant moving in there was 2 years, the entire thing. And you use that example outside, somewhere else. They're just like, that is amazing. You use the example in the West Plains for, in the Public Development Authority, from the time of purchase of the property to the time that building is ready for occupancy is in the couple-year time frame, where these other communities, it's 5 and 7 years. And so the streamlining is key. The second is a strategic plan of where we're going. And so for us, it's targeted areas. We just named them. It's targeted industries. And so it's advanced manufacturing, it's energy, it's forestry, it's life sciences. And so people want to cluster around other companies, especially when we start talking about the third component, which is workforce. And today, where we nearly have 100% employment, folks and companies are looking for, where do we get the workforce? And I'll tell you, it speaks volumes of our citizens because they see a culture in our workforce that they don't see in other communities, meaning that they want to work, they're very loyal, they show up. And then on the technical side, we have amazing community colleges and we have amazing universities. So at all skill levels, they really feed, and you and I serve as the chief elected officials on the Workforce Development Council. They see that coordination. And so those are kind of the three components. One is government working to support business, because unfortunately, like you see in Seattle and other places, a lot of times government vilifies business. And here we realize that we're regulators, but we also want those businesses to succeed. Second is, what is the strategy so that they understand that? And third is that pipeline to a workforce.
Yes, absolutely. So during your 8 years, the water issues and specifically the river have been issues that have been key, that have got a lot of attention. Could you give us a little background, a little explanation? What are some of those big initiatives you've tackled surrounding water and the river?
Absolutely. Our environmental report card over the last 8 years is pretty phenomenal. We are the only city in the United States that actually produces more green energy than we use of all energy types. The city, our citizens own a waste energy facility. We're nearly a zero landfill city. We also own a hydroelectric facility on the Spokane River. And so we've really been looking at, how do we get into the economy of, yes, the green economy, but then also one that is affordable to our citizens. Mm-hmm. And also our citizens we live in this beautiful community. And so it started in the first term, but that's our Cleaner River Faster initiative, a $350 million initiative, largest public works project the city ever endeavored on. We're able to do that within affordable utility rates, but it'll finish up next year, but with 22 tanks, we'll be removing about 54 million gallons of combined sewage out of the Spokane River, which is pretty phenomenal. And the public is starting to see these locations. Most notably this fall, we opened the surface of the one that's right by the downtown library, and it just gives beautiful views of the falls. But actually underneath that is a 2 million gallon tank that alleviates all of the stormwater and sewage from overflowing into the river that comes out of downtown and the lower South Hill. And I'll tell you, folks are very concerned about that, and so they're excited to see this. And it's kind of neat that on top of that, we have a beautiful plaza that overlooks the river, and we were able to do that throughout the city. There's one on West Main that now will be a key point and really was an economic driver to a brand new apartment building that went in, a brand new restaurant and microbrewery that went into a remodeled building that'll open here before the end of the year. And so we really used them, and that's part of our innovative infrastructure in the One Spokane strategic plan, and people can go to onespokane.org and see this. But we wanted to, as we made these investments, we wanted to make sure that people saw the benefits of it. We have another one that's the playground for one of our charter schools. And this was never in the make. We were going to put these in and put cyclone fence around them and not really have them be an asset, minus, of course, cleaning up the Spokane River. Mm-hmm. But now we have notoriety around the country. I was invited to be the first testifier in Congress on how we did this. But it's critical, again, with the partnerships. The county and the city share nearly a fully integrated wastewater treatment operation. The county has their facility, the city has ours, but they're intertied with a major intertie, and they're managed together, and our teams work together for the outcome of a cleaner environment and, most importantly, a clean river.
All right. And and I also want to highlight. I mean, you talked about those tanks, the location right there by the downtown library, and the Monroe Street Bridge. I mean, all of those things that you've done have, like you said, beautifully done. I mean, it's not just a giant concrete tank sitting there. I mean, you've done a great job with the planning to incorporate it into the landscape, to really make it something that is going to be a gem really for the region. Any chance we're going to see that zip line there that you
well,
talked about?
Actually, they are working on that. We built the
Okay.
tank, so it's kind of fun. And one of our initiatives in the One Spokane strategic plan was to connect our citizens to the river. So people have seen this. So we have a amazing put-in right underneath the Division Street Bridge where people can paddleboard. We have a brand new put-in at the Red Band Park right in Peaceful Valley so that we aren't destroying the environment, but people can put rafts into the river right there. But another one is the trail system along the river. We will be just finishing up next year a 3-mile loop around the lower falls on a trail. But another one is we built that tank to where we'll be able to cantilever a zip line. It'll be the longest zip line in the city, and it'll go right underneath the Monroe Street Bridge and end at the Red Band Trout Park there. We'll do that through a private vendor, like we do many other things, and so it's been set up to do that, and so it'll be pretty cool to see if that's able to come to fruition. But we built it so we would be able to. If people haven't gone down there, it's closed for the winter to make sure that the cement cures. But next spring, if you haven't had a chance, the trailhead that's been put in there, it'll ultimately connect underneath the Monroe Street Bridge. But it's pretty spectacular to stand on that cantilevered trail and look down at the river, especially come spring, because of course the water will be rushing and it'll be beautiful.
Yeah. That's incredible. As you come to the end of your term, are there any projects that you're currently working on right at the end here?
Well, I'll tell you, and I think we'll throw the graphic up there, but the One Spokane strategic plan has dozens of projects, and it was really a strategic plan that was designed for our community, for our city, to outlive one administration versus the other. So right up to the end, we are continuing to work on these, especially in the area of criminal justice with the county, and those things will continue and pay and reap benefits for our community for years to come. And so we are still working on all those. We're transitioning the new administration in to work on those projects, bringing them up to speed on our key collaborative efforts with the county. And so, whether it be, continued reforms in the criminal justice system, whether it be continued emphasis in some of the environmental programs that we have going, the public development authorities, literally, just weeks ago, the ink dried on those agreements. And so those will continue to take active management as we build those out and recruit companies and job creators and expand companies that are here. And so I get excited about that. I get excited about some of the collaboration around serving the most vulnerable in our community and issues and services provided those that are experiencing homelessness, the partnership we've had with the county on the Envision Center, the Spokane Resource Center. So the whole gamut, I think, is really a great opportunity to continue these projects. And that's what the One Spokane plan is all about, is the county, the city, the Spokane Valley, the Liberty Lake. How do we come together on some key initiatives and move those forward for our citizens?
All right. Well, it's clear you've done so many things as mayor. You've made such an impact on this community. But what's next for Mayor Condon when you hand over the keys to the mayor's office? What's next for you and your family?
We've my family, and of course, as you know, Commissioner, that this is a family calling, and it's been great. My children have had an amazing front row seat on how their city runs. They've only known me ever to be mayor, kind of like your kids will only know you to be commissioner at this point. I had a son born since I've been mayor, and that's been amazing. And we're going to live in this community. So what's next for us is to stay here in Spokane. I'm not running for an elected office, and I really plan on entering back into the private sector and furthering some of these initiatives, but for a company or business and what they bring. Because I'll tell you, our job creators here are phenomenal, and they're the ones that unlock the opportunity for our citizens to enjoy the great city, county, and region that we're all part of.
Absolutely. It couldn't be done without our private sector partners. So as you look forward to the next 4 years, what are the things that the city is going to be facing under the new administration? What are some of those big issues that that next group of elected officials, not only in the mayor's office but also on the city council? What are those big issues
absolutely.
there?
I think first and foremost is, although often difficult at times, need to continue the partnerships with our, and the groundwork has been set there in some key areas, like I said, in economic development and job creation. education. I think another area that needs to continue to be worked on is in the area of criminal justice and public safety, and how do we bring some of those pieces together. Unfortunately, we've had some setbacks in kind of bringing together the Spokane Regional Emergency Communication Center. I hope that the new elected officials on the city side would relook that and become part of that partnership. You know, and so I think that's going to be facing us. I also worry that as the economy does not slide backwards, but perhaps slows on how fast we've been growing, that we need to also hold that into account and make sure we don't grow government too quickly, that we really do it within an affordable place. You know, our median household income is up 36% in the last 5 years. We don't want to eat that up with cost of government. We want folks to have more disposable income, spend the money where they want to. So they really need to be careful of that and continue to partner with our metropolitan partners.
All right, and in our final few minutes of the show today, anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
You know, it's been a great honor to serve as the mayor of my hometown, the city that I plan on living the rest of my life in. Like I said earlier, my children love it here. You know, we've had a great run over the last 8 years, many more projects to address in the coming years. But I'll tell you, as I got that email from the editor of Inc. magazine saying we're in the Surge 50, number 31, number 6 in entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneur and companies starting. That means that people are really excited about what we're doing, and really we're in the likes of the San Franciscos and the Seattles and the Bostons, but we're a city that people can get their arms around, and that's pretty amazing. And we're a city that people are choosing to live in. Our fastest growing populations are 18 to 27. Kids are staying here now. We aren't having the brain drain. Parents can see their kids staying here. The second is people over 65. So we aren't shoving folks out. People want to stay here after they retire. And that's pretty exciting to see that growth, because when we talk about being the city of choice and we talk about being a smarter, safer, and healthier community, people have a lot of choices in the Northwest. We live in an amazing part of the country, and they're choosing to live in our city and our county.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's been fantastic. I want to thank you for 8 years of service for Spokane, for the city of Spokane.
Absolutely.
Well, all right. Well, I'd like to thank my guest, Mayor David Condon, for joining us here today. As a reminder, a video of today's spotlight can be accessed on our Spokane County homepage and on our Spokane County YouTube channel. You can also listen on the go and download our Spokane County spotlights as a podcast on SoundCloud or the iTunes app. Just go to the App Store and search Spokane County. I'm County Commissioner Josh Kerns. Thank you for joining us today on Spokane County Spotlight.